You're in a meeting. You clear your throat. Just once. Quick. Quiet. 30 seconds later, you do it again. You notice someone glance at you. You become aware you're doing it. You try to stop. You focus on not clearing your throat. 2 minutes later, there it is again. That sensation, that tickle, that awareness of something sitting there that wasn't there a moment ago. You clear it. This happens 10 times in a 1-hour meeting. At 35, you never thought about your throat. You couldn't tell someone what your throat felt like on a normal day because it felt like nothing. At 50, you're aware of it constantly. When did this start? You can't pinpoint the exact moment, but sometime between 45 and 50, your throat became something you think about, something you manage, something that demands attention multiple times an hour. And here's what makes it especially strange. You're healthy. You're not sick. You don't have a cold. You're not coughing. You're just clearing your throat again and again and again. So what is this? The answer isn't allergies. It's not acid reflux. It's not postnasal drip. It's something that started changing in your throat 15 years ago. 5 things, actually. And you couldn't feel any of them happening. But now, right around your late 40s, all 5 have converged. And when they did, your throat crossed a threshold that explains everything. This is the story of what's been happening inside your throat while you felt completely fine. Let's start by eliminating the explanations that sound right but don't actually explain the timing. It's seasonal allergies. Okay, but you've had seasonal allergies since you were 12. They made your eyes itch and your nose run. They didn't make you clear your throat 40 times a day. It's postnasal drip. Maybe, but postnasal drip causes symptoms when you're lying down. This happens when you're sitting upright, in meetings, while talking, while doing nothing at all. It's acid reflux. But you don't have heartburn. You don't taste acid. The sensation is mucus, not burn. None of these explanations answer the core question. Not what is causing this right now, but why now? You've had the same allergies for 30 years. Your stress levels haven't fundamentally changed. Your diet is roughly the same. But your throat is different. Something changed. Something you couldn't feel. Something gradual enough that there was no single moment you could point to and say, that's when it started. But by your late 40s, it was constant. So what actually changed? Sometime in your early 40s, something shifted in your throat. The mucus your throat produces became microscopically thicker. Not more mucus, thicker mucus. The difference is invisible, but by 50, the mucus is noticeably more viscous, thick enough that your cleaning system starts to struggle. As the cells in your mucous membranes age, they produce more mucin glycoproteins, the molecules that give mucus its gel-like consistency. This isn't a disease, it's normal cellular aging. But here's the thing. Thicker mucus by itself shouldn't cause constant throat clearing. Your body has a self-cleaning system for dealing with mucus. It's been running since birth. When your mucus first started thickening, that system was still working perfectly. But that system? It was also changing. Starting in your late 30s, something you've never thought about started slowing down. Cilia. Your throat is lined with millions of microscopic hair-like structures called cilia. They're about 1/10 the width of a human hair, invisible to the naked eye. And they move. They beat in coordinated waves, like wheat in a field moving in the wind, sweeping mucus upward and out of your throat, about 1,000 beats per minute. This happens constantly. Right now, as you're hearing this, millions of cilia are sweeping mucus out of your throat. You've never felt them, you've never noticed them, but they've been working every second of your life. Starting in your late 30s, those cilia started slowing down. By age 50, your cilia beat about 700 times per minute instead of 1,000, a 30% reduction in speed. Cilia are powered by cellular motors, protein structures inside cells that move. Those motors slow down as the cells age. It's measurable, universal. Now here's where the first two timelines start to interact. When your mucus first started getting thicker, your cilia were still fast enough to compensate. When your cilia first started slowing, your mucus was still thin enough to move easily. But by your mid-40s, thicker mucus met slower cilia. Mucus that used to be swept out invisibly now moves more slowly. It accumulates in places it never used to pool. But even this, thicker mucus plus slower cilia, shouldn't make you clear your throat constantly. Because here's the thing, mucus has been accumulating slightly more since your mid-40s. But you didn't notice it then. You notice it now. Why? Because something in your nervous system flipped the switch. By your late 40s, you're clearing your throat in situations where you never used to. In meetings, while reading, first thing in the morning. What changed isn't just the mucus, it's your awareness of it. Somewhere in your mid-40s, a nerve in your throat, the vagus nerve, recalibrated. The vagus nerve controls swallowing, coughing, and the sensation of your throat. It's constantly monitoring what's happening there. At 30, the vagus nerve had a high threshold. It took a significant amount of mucus or irritation to trigger the clear your throat reflex. By 50, that threshold dropped by about 40%. The same amount of mucus that wouldn't have registered at 35 now triggers the reflex immediately. Why does the threshold drop? Nerve sensitivity increases with age. It's a documented phenomenon across multiple nerve types. The vagus nerve becomes more reactive to smaller stimuli. This creates a vicious cycle. The sensitive nerve detects the slightly thicker, slower-moving mucus from the first two timelines. It triggers the clearing reflex. You clear your throat, the clearing irritates your throat slightly, the irritation makes the nerve even more sensitive, which makes you more aware of mucus, which triggers more clearing. You're not imagining that you're more aware of your throat, you literally are. The nerve recalibrated, and once it did, the throat clearing became constant. But there's still a missing piece, because even a sensitive nerve shouldn't fire constantly unless there's something amplifying the sensation. Here's the question the third timeline opened. Why does it feel like there's always something there? The answer? Your throat is dry. Starting around 40, your salivary glands began producing less saliva. By age 60, you're producing far less than you were at 30. Why does this matter? Saliva is your body's natural lubricant. When you swallow, saliva coats your throat. It mixes with mucus. It thins it out. It makes everything feel smooth and unnoticeable. At 30, you were swallowing saliva constantly without ever thinking about it. That saliva kept your throat lubricated and comfortable. By 50, you're producing less saliva. The saliva you do produce is slightly less effective at thinning mucus. So now, the thicker mucus, moving more slowly, triggering your sensitive nerve, feels even more prominent, because the lubrication that used to make it unnoticeable is gone. Dry throat amplifies everything. The same amount of mucus that felt like nothing at 35 now feels like something you need to clear. But there's one more timeline, and this one is invisible to almost everyone. This timeline started in your 20s. But you don't feel the consequences until your late 40s. Your head has been shifting forward. Over 25 years of sitting at desks, looking at screens, your head has moved forward relative to your spine by 2 to 3 centimeters. 2 centimeters doesn't sound like much, but it changes the angle of your throat by 8 to 12 degrees, and that angle determines how mucus drains. When your head sits directly above your spine, mucus drains smoothly downward. You swallow it without noticing. But when your head shifts forward, the back of your throat becomes more horizontal. Mucus doesn't drain as efficiently. It pools. You don't feel your posture changing. You've adapted over decades. It feels normal. But your throat hasn't adapted. It's trying to drain mucus at an angle it wasn't designed for. This is why the throat clearing is constant, not occasional.
You've been slowly tilting your head forward for 25 years. Your throat has been slowly accumulating mucus in response. None of these timelines alone would create constant throat clearing.
Your body is extraordinary at compensation. When the mucus first thickened, your cleaning system compensated. You never noticed. When the cilia slowed, the mucus was still manageable. Still no problem. When the nerve became more sensitive, you still had enough saliva to keep your throat comfortable. Your body can adapt to one changing variable, even two, sometimes three. But when mucus thickened, and cilia slowed, and the nerve recalibrated, and your throat dried out, and the drainage angle shifted, compensation failed. Not because your body's weak, because 5 invisible changes aligned. Each one manageable, all 5 together, a threshold that finally explains why this started. This convergence happens for most people between ages 47 and 52, some earlier, some later, but the pattern is the same. This is why it feels sudden. You weren't clearing your throat constantly in your early 40s. You are now. It feels like something broke, like your throat suddenly stopped working correctly. But nothing broke. 5 gradual changes, invisible, unnoticeable, completely normal, all reached a threshold at the same time. And when they did, your throat crossed a line that changed everything you feel. Your throat isn't broken. It's doing exactly what a throat that's been running for 50 years does. None of these are failures. They're adaptations to a 50-year-old body. And when you clear your throat 40 times a day, you're feeling the convergence of 5 timelines your younger self never had to think about. The throat clearing isn't the problem. It's the signal, a signal that 5 invisible changes have finally aligned. You couldn't feel them individually. You can't easily reverse them, but you can finally understand them. And understanding changes everything. The next time you clear your throat, and you will, probably in the next 10 minutes, you won't just feel annoyed, you'll know what you're feeling. That sensation in your throat right now, that's not mucus, that's time. 5 decades of microscopic changes finally converging into one constant awareness. Your throat hasn't forgotten how to work, it's working exactly as it should, for a throat that's 50. If you want to understand the other invisible timelines running inside your body, the ones you can't feel until they converge, that's what this channel is for. We show you what's actually happening, the biology you can't see, the timelines you didn't know were running. Because your body after 50 isn't failing, it's adapting. And the more you understand what it's adapting to, the less frightening those adaptations become. Subscribe. Because the throat clearing is just one convergence. There are more, and most of them you can't feel yet.